What is up, everybody? Coach Juma here at the gym, and today we're going to be breaking down how to engage your core properly throughout the major lifts and just in general, what cues to aim for. Because this is something you've probably heard a lot in the memes at the gym from some random trainers to engage your core. But what does that mean? What does it look like? How can you practice doing that more effectively? Before we get into all of that, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share the channel to the person that told you to engage your core, to tell them how they should be doing it, and turn on the little notification bell so you never miss a video that we put out. Why do you even want to brace your core while doing any kind of workout? The main reason is to protect your torso. So when your core is braced, your hips are in a strong position, your shoulders are in a strong position, your ribcage are in a strong position, and they're not going to be at risk to the load that you're bearing. If you're not bracing your core and you're trying to do a barbell squat, every single vertebrae in your spine is at risk of being injured because it's going to be just a loosey-goosey chain of events. However, if you have a strong braced core, you'll be able to handle the load much more easily and go through an entire range of motion much more effectively. Not only that, when you're actually doing the workout, like a squat for instance, if you have your core braced, you're able to actually create tension on your quad muscles, your hamstring muscles, your glute muscles the way you want to. If you didn't have a strong core, you're gonna be using a lot of other muscles, your back, your lower abs, to be moving the weight as opposed to putting it where you want when doing a movement like a squat. Not only is it safe for your joints as a whole, not only does it allow you to move the weight more efficiently, it also allows you to move more weight. And because you can move more weight and translate it to the muscles you actually want to work, you're gonna get a better result from your training program. So what does a braced core look like? So as I mentioned before, this area from your neck to your hips is what you want to brace. You want to make sure everything is stacked on top of each other, no matter where you move your body. If you're squatting, if you're hinging, if you're pressing overhead, you want to keep the shoulders, the ribs, and pelvis all stacked on top of each other in a straight line. You don't want to be overextending at any point or flexing like this either. You want to keep it strong, keep it flexed in, rib cage tucked in, glutes scooped underneath you and squeezed as you go through any type of movement. So if you're doing an overhead press, you want to keep it stacked like this, only your arms are moving. If you're doing a squat, your torso is going to move, but it's going to bend at the hip. You're not going to bend or extend at the spine. This stays braced. This moves as one unit, coming down, coming back up. Moves as one unit when you go into a squat and come back up. And that's what it looks like to have a braced core. Your abs are flexed in, your rib cage is sucked in, and this is a solid flat line. Your butt is scooped underneath you, you're squeezing that so that your hips are level and staying in line with everything. With an overhead press, an unbraced core looks like this. A lot of people lift like this. Their rib cage is forward, their hips are forward, and they can't stay under the bar appropriately. And that honestly hurt my lower back a lot just demonstrating it. So how can you actually train this and practice this? Well, it starts with your warm-up. If you're gonna be doing an overhead press, for instance, you wanna make sure that you're able to move the lighter weights that you're warming up with while maintaining a strong braced core. So this movement with just the bar weight, the arms should be the only thing moving, everything else should be solid and stable. You wanna keep your glutes engaged, flex that rib cage down, and then press overhead. If this is hard for you to do, you can always resort to a landmine press, but overall, this is the ideal position to lift more weight, keep your shoulders in a safe position, and keep your lower back safe too. Likewise, with a squat, you want to warm up by bracing your core and going through with just the bar weight, maybe a little bit of load, but not near the working load that you're gonna be working on, and going through that movement while keeping a braced core, while keeping it strong and steady. The same thing also applies for hip thrusts, it applies for bench press, it applies for deadlifts. You want to keep a strong, stable core throughout your warm-up so that it can translate well into your working set. With deadlifts, the sides, you should never be rounded too much. You want to keep it straight and engaged from head to hips. Head to hips should be a straight line the entire time. And again, moving as one unit. Not only can you focus on it during the warm-up of the actual exercise, you can do specific core exercises to focus on maintaining bracing so that you can go into the workout already having familiarized your body with what you want it to do. When doing a deadlift, for instance, I always like to prime the body first with some sort of plank or anti-extension movement. When doing a squat, I like to do an anti-rotational movement a lot of times, like a squatted Pallof press, to make sure that I can maintain a strong torso against the resistance that's trying to force me to break my torso while in a squatted position. So with the squatted Pallof press, you're mimicking your actual squat. So you're gonna get low while keeping a strong torso, and then you're gonna press out. The weight is trying to twist me to the side. But because I maintain a strong torso, I'm able to stay here and brace myself accordingly. And now when I'm in my actual squat with the barbell loaded on top of me, I'm in a better position. I'm primed to maintain this position and strong torso while squatting. I like to do similar anti-extension movements for overhead press, but while keeping the arms extended overhead. So like an overhead wall press dead bug is a good warm-up exercise going into an overhead press to have your body ready to maintain that position under heavier load. Because if you go into the exercise and go into your working weights not properly prepared for it, you're gonna have a faltering piece. You're gonna only be as strong as your weakest link. And if that weakest link is your core, you're gonna feel that in your lower back, in your shoulder joint, in your spine, all over the place that you don't wanna feel it. So taking the time to properly prime and activate your core is important. So this is a wall press dead bug. One of the best ways, not just to improve overhead core engagement, but just core engagement in general in any position. So the way we're gonna be doing this is you're gonna reach overhead, arms should be straight against the wall, and you're gonna push as hard as you can against the wall. Now, naturally, when you reach overhead, your back is gonna arch up, and you're gonna make, again, an arch over the ground. So you wanna force your rib cage down, and this is the kind of visual you want to show a engaged core. So while you're up here, you're gonna be pressing as hard as you can, and also bringing your ribcage to the floor as intensely as you can. And sharply exhale while doing it, because that's when your core is gonna be most powerful while lifting. So doing it all at once. You just hold this position for a period of time, and then reset. If you wanna make this more difficult, you can bring your legs up, and same idea, back is gonna arch even more now because it's brought in, and we can make this more of an active movement. So you wanna start ribs flexed down into the floor, pressing as hard as you can overhead, but this time you're gonna extend your legs. Now with your legs extended, your back is gonna wanna do this again, and you really have to resist that as hard as you can. So pressing up hard, bringing the rib cage down, and then maintaining this position while moving your legs. And if you struggle with core engagement, you feel your lower back a lot with overhead presses or with deadlifts, this is great to do in between sets also to really get your body adapted to the way you want it to move. You're always gonna go back and default to your old behaviors under heavy load. So you wanna reinforce this pattern by repeating it as many times as you can. So doing it in between sets is a really helpful cue and reminder to keep your core braced under these loads in these different conditions. I go through more about the proper warm-up process in this video, but for now we're only talking about the core bracing process specifically. So before your next major lift, make sure to prime your body by doing a couple sets of any of the exercises we demonstrated today, and make sure you record yourself doing your lift as well so that you can see whether or not you're actually bracing your core properly and maintaining a good spine position while going through the lifts. Always reference this video whenever you need it. If you know a friend that doesn't have a good brace core while they're lifting, send this their way for a subtle jab to get them back on their shit. And until next time, stay stupid.